Ronald Read was born in 1921 and grew up in a poor farming family in Dummerston, Vermont. He was the first person in his family to graduate from high school. He walked and hitchhiked miles just to get there. Later, he served in the U.S. Army during World War II. He served in North Africa, Italy, and the Pacific.
I had to get back home. Safe journey, son. North Africa was rough. We made it through Italy. Finally home. I'm home.
Welcome back, son.
It's good to be back.
We've missed you.
Let's get to work together. That's the spirit.
He worked at a gas station for about 25 years. Then, after retirement, he worked another 17 years in custodial and maintenance roles at JCPenney. 25 years right here. No hedge fund office, no private equity career, no glamorous resume, just work. And that's enough for me. Steady, repetitive, blue-collar work. And if that were the whole story, nobody outside his town would have ever heard of him. But Ronald Read had something that many people with much larger incomes never develop. I'll just park here. It's free. These pins are handy. No need for new clothes. He was always so frugal. He used safety pins for everything. Saves money. He drove a used Toyota Yaris. He parked in free spaces to avoid meters. He lived simply enough that some people around him thought he was struggling financially. But he wasn't struggling. He was allocating. That's an important difference. Most people see modest living and think, that person doesn't have money. But sometimes modest living means something very different. Sometimes it means, this person refuses to waste future freedom on present appearances. And Ronald Read was doing exactly that. So what was Ronald Read actually doing? He was investing. Quietly, consistently, for decades. I bought shares in companies I understood, many of them dividend-paying blue-chip businesses. I held names like Johnson & Johnson, Procter & Gamble, and JP Morgan. I invested in established companies. I reinvested dividends. I avoided trends I didn't understand, including many technology stocks. And most importantly, I held on. That last part is where most people fail. People love the idea of investing when it feels exciting. But excitement doesn't lead to consistent results. Discipline does. They love the language of wealth. They love the fantasy of fast growth. They love the image of success, but they hate the waiting. Patience is brilliance. Ronald Read understood something simple and brutally effective. The market rewards patience far more often than brilliance. He didn't need to be the smartest investor in the room. He just needed to keep showing up. Keep buying productive assets. Keep reinvesting. Keep waiting. Keep ignoring noise. That sounds almost too simple to be powerful. But that's because most people underestimate the force of consistency. They think outcomes come from intensity. In reality, the biggest financial outcomes often come from duration. Not sophistication, not speed, not status, just repetition. The power of compounding small, disciplined actions. That's the true edge. Just repetition. Now here's where Ronald Read's story becomes uncomfortable. It was psychology. Most people do not lose financially because they never learned how compound interest works. They lose because their lifestyle expands every time their income does. They get a raise and little more, a nicer car, a nicer phone, more subscriptions, more takeout, more things that feel small in the moment and permanent in the budget. And little by little, the future gets sold off in exchange for convenience. That's the real battle. Not understanding what to do, controlling what happens before the money disappears. Ronald Read seemed to understand that instinctively. His money flowed into ownership. It flowed into ownership. And ownership changes everything. When money goes into consumption, it's gone. When money goes into assets, it starts working. That is the dividing line between looking richer and becoming richer. Most people focus on what their money can buy today. Wealthy people, especially the quiet ones, focus on what their money can keep producing tomorrow. That's why Ronald Read's life matters so much. He wasn't showing off discipline. He was using discipline to buy time, options, and compounding. Now let's bring this into the present, because most people hear Ronald Read's story and immediately create distance from it. They say, well, that was a different era, or he had decades. Stocks were cheaper. I don't know how to pick blue chip companies. And that's fair. You don't need to copy Ronald Read literally. You need to copy the principle. His principle was simple. Don't let surplus sit around waiting to be spent. Redirect it into productive assets before lifestyle can absorb it. Today, the easiest modern version of that principle is automation. That's where the $5 habit comes in. $5 is not magical. $5 is symbolic. It's small enough that most people can imagine starting. And that matters, because the hardest part of wealth building is rarely optimization. People wait for the perfect month to invest, the perfect income, the perfect app, the perfect strategy, the perfect confidence. But perfection is one of the most expensive delays in finance. The better move is to build the identity first. You become the kind of person who invests automatically. You become the kind of person who redirects money into assets. And once that identity exists, scaling becomes easier. So maybe for you, it starts with $5 a day into an index fund. Maybe it's $25 a week. Maybe it's $50 every payday. The point is not the number. The point is whether the action repeats. Because repeated action creates financial gravity. And once that habit is in place, you no longer rely on motivation. You rely on what Ronald Read had, a structure, a system, a path for money to follow. Let's talk about the part that still feels abstract to a lot of people, the scale. This graph shows how wealth grows slowly at first, then explodes exponentially. This is what makes it so powerful over time. Because $5 sounds tiny, it sounds almost childish compared to the big numbers people see online. And that's exactly why it's powerful. Small amounts are psychologically easy to dismiss, but compounding does not care whether something felt impressive at the beginning. It only cares whether it stayed invested long enough. That's the trap most people fall into. They underestimate the early phase because the progress looks invisible. And they quit before the curve begins to matter. But compounding is weird like that. At first, it feels like nothing is happening. Then one day, what felt small for years begins to look enormous in hindsight. That was Ronald Read's whole life. He did not build an $8 million fortune in one dramatic chapter. He built it in quiet seasons that probably looked forgettable while he was living them. One decision not to overspend, one investment purchase, one reinvested dividend, one more year of patience, one more year of not interrupting the process. That is how wealth often looks in real life. Boring up close, extraordinary from far away. And if you can really accept that, you gain an edge over almost everyone chasing shortcuts. Because once you have a money strategy, you make room for effectiveness. There's another lesson in Ronald Read's story that people don't talk about enough. Small, consistent choices like his build wealth quietly over time. It's not flashy, but it's powerful. It's not just that he invested, it's that he created room to invest. And room is expensive in a culture built around constant upgrade. Every platform is trying to convince you that a better life is one purchase away. A better identity, a better image, a better version of yourself. But is that really what you need? But if every increase in income gets matched by an increase in lifestyle, then your financial future never gets a chance to breathe. That's why the richest looking people are often look strangely average. Because real wealth is what you don't see. It's the money not spent, the money still owned, the money still compounding, the money still available to create options. Ronald Read understood invisible wealth. He understood that it was better to own productive assets quietly than to perform success loudly. That is a lesson worth stealing. Not the level of frugality, not the exact portfolio, but the mindset, the refusal to confuse consumption with progress. What made Ronald Read famous was not the way he lived. It was what happened after he died.
My friends, thank you. True wealth is sharing what you know.
He invested regularly and stayed patient. That's when people discovered the truth. His estate was worth nearly $8 million.
He left $1.2 million to Brooks Memorial Library and $4.8 million to Brattleboro Memorial Hospital. People in town were stunned. The man many assumed was simply modest had quietly built enough wealth to transform his community.
And that may be the most powerful part of the story. His money outlived his paycheck. His discipline outlived his job title. His invisible habits became visible only at the end. That is what compounding does. It stores the meaning of small decisions until the result becomes impossible to ignore. And by then, it looks like magic. It was Laura who wasn't a behavior. So what should you actually take from Ronald Read's life? Not that you need to live exactly like he did. Not that every frugal person becomes a millionaire. Not that $5 a day guarantees millions. Wealth is often built in ways that feel too small to matter. The real transformation happens when small actions become automatic. That's how lasting wealth is built. When money stops asking for your permission every month, when part of your income gets redirected into ownership before you can spend it, when investing becomes less of an event and more of a rhythm. That is the power of the $5 habit. It is not about $5. It is about proof that you can build a system, proof that your future can start claiming a piece of your present. I didn't become extraordinary by living an extraordinary-looking life. I became extraordinary by repeating ordinary wisdom for an extraordinarily long time. And maybe that's the most hopeful financial lesson of all. Because it means wealth may be less about what you know than about what you keep doing. So if you want to honor the real lesson of Ronald Read, don't ask yourself what sounds impressive. Ask yourself what you can repeat. Ask yourself what you can automate. Ask yourself what tiny amount of money can start leaving your checking account and entering your future. Time turns the boring into the powerful. Let time do what time has always done for disciplined people. Turn the boring thing into the powerful thing. Boring habits build wealth. It's not about quick wins, but daily discipline. Save a little every single day and watch your wealth grow. Financial soft skills: invest regularly, stay consistent, and stay patient. No debt. That's the key to financial freedom. Keep it up. Invest regularly. No debt. Stay patient. Let time work for you. Like this piggy bank, your money will grow. Time is the key to building wealth.